dollar. Dirt and money, no soul. Had to go and get it, ain't no time to kick it. Got a stack of flip for my foes. Dollar. Please tell me you can hear me. Don't turn your back and don't neglect me. Just let me know if you need me. Dollar. Let me watch out for my partners. Keep my money long, get my team strong. Let me run away from my problems.
Yep, what's good, original crew, man? We're back. We got another round of the Missing 411. Today, the 5 strangest disappearances in Forest, Part 2. Now, I just want y'all to come into this. If you already heard it, just sit down, chill, watch it again. But those who haven't, I just want you to come in with some logical sense. Let's think logically and not skeptically. Because remember what was it, last week or the week before? Mm-hmm. We heard a story about somebody going missing. Yeah. And they just seemed like they had just vanished. Yeah. And then later on, they get the case solved. It was a cold case. Mm-hmm. They went on a forest hike or something. Yeah. And they were like, they found everything else. They just couldn't find the body, right? They found his equipment. Found this. He was experienced within the area. Mm-hmm. He knew that's not an area he didn't frequent. And then what happened? You remember?
Mm-mm. They ended up finding him.
They didn't find him.
Oh, I said I don't remember.
They didn't find him. What had happened was his best friend, which was his wife lover. Yes, in the 10 cold cases. And then they had. I
thought you was talking about. Oh, no, yeah. My bad. I be a little lost sometimes when you be talking.
You do be lost a lot of times, but we gonna make sure you get found. But kind of find out they had actually buried his body in a different location, and they couldn't get any tracks. So just come in and think logically what could really happen logically. But with that being said, make sure you check out the links in the description box.
Down below.
You already know where to go. If you want to first support, you got to do it. Check out down below. Also, if you enjoyed today's visuals,
like it with a thumbs up.
But let's go, man. Let's hop into it. Let's check it out. Let's see what's about. You ready?
I'm ready.
Let's get it.
Every year, hundreds of people go missing inside of national parks all over North America. But of those hundreds of people, every year, a few of them go missing under very strange circumstances. And a man named David Politis, who's a former police detective, has made it his mission to look into just the bizarre disappearances that are occurring all over North America in his series that's called Missing 411. So there are thousands of these strange cases inside of Missing 411 that David Politis has poured tens of thousands of hours of research into. And he puts them into books, into documentaries. And so there's really no shortage of strange cases to look at. But as I begin my own research into Missing 411 and learn about these different cases, I have been pulling groups of stories that stand out to me as being particularly interesting or just fascinating or just strange, and I'm making videos to highlight those stories. And so I've already done one video like this where I highlighted 5 stories that I thought were particularly strange. You can find that in the description. I left a link to that video if you want to check that out. And so today I'm going to be looking at another 5 cases from the Missing 411 project that are just totally weird. But before we get into today's stories, if you're interested in the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, you've come to the right channel, because I post 3 to 4 times a week all about the strange, dark, and mysterious, like I'm promising to deliver today. And if that's your deal, I would ask you to please gently uppercut the like button, and then also subscribe to my channel and turn on all post notifications so you don't miss any of those 3 to 4 weekly uploads. All right, let's get into the story. So this first one really takes the cake for just being strange. You have a family that basically has 2 experiences that are somewhat connected. You're going to have to be the judge if they're connected or not, but very strange. On October 1st of 2010, this family, who decided to remain anonymous for the Missing 411 story, they go camping, and it's a 3.5-year-old boy, his older sister, and then the mom and the dad. And so they go camping at Mount Shasta in California, which is a popular camping site. And the family loved to go camping there. And so they're all sitting around the campfire, kind of hanging out at the campsite. It's getting late in the evening, maybe 5, 6 o'clock. And the sister would say that she was looking at her brother, turned away for a second, and then looked back, and he was gone. And it was so sudden that she actually went to go look for him and couldn't find him. So she went and told her mom and her dad, and they start calling for their son, and they're looking all over their campsite, and he's gone. Authorities show up, and they launch a full search. And for 5 hours, they have hundreds of people scouring this area, not only the campsite, but the surrounding areas. And there's no trace of this boy. 5 hours later, they find him laying in a thicket on a trail that had been searched multiple times. And it wasn't like hidden. The thicket was like right by the side of the trail. So if you've searched this trail, you've found this kid. So meaning he couldn't have been there during the search. He must have arrived and then they found him on this trail. Everybody was so happy that they found this kid and he wasn't physically harmed that no one really looked into the fact that it doesn't make any sense that he is here. How did he get here? Where did he go? Where has he been? No one thought about that. They were like, we got the kid back. We're all happy. The parents are happy. Everyone's ready to just move on. And so the kid goes to the hospital. The doctor looks at the kid and says, you know what, he's fine. This is obviously a traumatic situation, but he's fine. You can take him home. And so the kid goes home with his parents, and pretty quickly the family went back to normal. They were obviously super grateful that they didn't lose their son. About 3 weeks after this whole ordeal, the boy is with his grandmother, who he called Cappy, and he looks at Cappy and he goes, I don't like the other Cappy.
Huh?
And so his grandmother, the real Cappy, she looks at him and she was like, what do you mean? Now, remember, this is a 3.5-year-old boy. Language skills, not the best, okay?
True.
But this story that he tells his grandmother, he had previously told his father, but the father had written it off as the ramblings of a 3.5-year-old. It wasn't until the grandmother told the father about the story that he was like, I've heard that story. And so the boy says, while he was camping, he turned and he saw Cappy waving to him to come with him. And so he loves Cappy and he goes with Cappy, and Cappy leads him up a hill to a cave. Now the whole time, the real Cappy, who wasn't there, she was not with them camping. She's thinking, oh my God, someone who looks like me abducted this child. So she's listening, horrified. He said, she brought me up to a cave. And when we got into the cave, he said there were spiders and purses, like women's purses. And he turned to look at Cappy, and he said that her head was glowing. And it was when he realized this is not Cappy. This is the other Cappy. And he said the other Cappy kept asking him questions, but he didn't know the answers. And so the other Cappy got frustrated and told him to leave and pushed him out of the cave. And he said that he left the cave and wound up in the thicket, and that's when he was found. And so when Cappy goes and tells the father, and the father says, I've heard that story, they're like, that's so weird. Do you think there's any truth to this? Is there someone that looked like me, Cappy, that took the boy away? And so as Cappy and the boy's father are talking, Cappy feels compelled to share her own strange story about being on Mount Shasta. Because prior to this, the family, I think the way they were looking at what happened is the boy wandered off and he returned 5 hours later. But with the boy's story being kind of corroborated by, the father who heard the same story, Cappy's like, I got to share my story now because I don't know if it's connected, but I had a very strange experience on Mount Shasta as well a year ago. She went camping a year earlier with her friend, and they go to a campsite on Mount Shasta, the same place where the boy disappeared, and apparently saw the other Cappy. And so Cappy says that night they're sitting around the campfire and it's dark, and she notices a set of eyes in the woods that were glowing. So glowing red eyes, she says. And, Cappy and her friend, they go camping all the time. And so they know there could be predators and animals all over the place. And so they grab their flashlights and they shine in the direction of the eyes. And the eyes dart away and they don't think anything of it. Over the course of the night, the eyes would keep showing up all around them. And every time they'd shine a light in their direction, they would vanish. Cappy and her friend are unable to get the light on this thing. So they don't know what it is. And so they're very uneasy about it. But they decide, you know what? We're psyching ourselves out. It's just an animal that's interested in us. And so they go to bed and they sleep in their own. She slept in a tent and he slept in a camper, and they go to bed. And the next morning, Cappy wakes up and she's laying on the dirt outside of her tent. And immediately she has pain in the back of her neck. And so she reaches back and she grabs her neck, and she can feel there's a cut on the back of her neck. She doesn't know what it is, and she looks up, and her friend is on the ground outside of his camper, face down as well. And so she gets up, she feels horrible, like sick, like violently sick, in fact. And she kind of staggers away over to her friend, who is laying there, and she can see too that he's got a mark on his neck. And he gets up and he's like, what happened? And they assumed that they had been bitten by, a poisonous spider. That's actually what they believed, because it was a little puncture wound on both of their necks, and that it had caused them to be sick and delirious. They'd wandered out of their camper and their tent, and they'd wound up on the ground. But now, as Cappy is retelling the story, she was like, I don't know how to connect that experience with what happened to the boy, but I can't help but feel like something weird's happening on Mount Shasta. And it would turn out that, maybe they weren't wrong, because Mount Shasta is like a hotspot for missing 411 strange disappearances. And in fact, our next story is another Mount Shasta case.
What you think happened? You know what kind of...
Go ahead. I was about to say, the little boy probably did see something or whatever he experienced. So, because sometimes kids can make up stories and stuff, but since he's like he told his dad, the story hasn't changed. He told his grandma, the story hasn't changed. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty he's something he had to have seen something, especially for the sister to turn away, look back, and he's gone just like that. No sign, it's not anything has drug him off. You would have heard screams. I'm pretty sure he don't walk around that fast for no one to see him wander off. True. So it has to be something else, and it could be the other Cappy, whatever. I don't know, but. That's a little strange.
I wonder what they call her Cappy, because he couldn't say Kathy.
Grandma Cappy. Probably.
So he said Cappy. Grandma Cappy.
Grandma Cappy. Yeah. Her name probably is Cappy.
Can't say Kathy?
Yeah.
Or Catherine.
Catherine, yeah. Or something like that. But yeah. So, what you think?
And then I'm like, for one, Grandma, why you and the man one sleeping in the same camper?
I mean, I don't know about that ending, but also
no. Why the man didn't sleep in the tent? You slept in the camper.
I thought about that. I said, but that ain't none of my business.
That ain't none of my business. But come on now,
that ain't none of my business. But it's still
chivalry been dead, huh?
But it's still strange. I'm like, you woke up outside of your camper on the ground, face down. What? How you think you got
but
there?
They could have been days and you never know. Because I'm saying he probably woke up like what's going on? You know what I'm saying? Out of it. You never know what might happen to him.
I don't know. But anyway, something strange going on up there.
But no, want me to tell you what it kind of remind me of?
What?
A movie.
What movie?
A movie. I'm going to give you 5 seconds guess.
A movie?
Yeah.
Yeah. 5 seconds over.
Us.
I thought that's a TV show. No. Oh, Us, the movie.
Jordan
Peele. In my head, I said Us, but then I said, oh, that's a TV show. He said movie, so that's not it. Oh, okay, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's called Us? Yeah. Where they swap. It's a doppelganger. Yeah. And they were going in, because that could have been the doppelganger. On some that type of time.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
And that's just some weird thinking types. You know what I'm saying? But on some realistic things, that could be people who live in this area that's just off the grid. That could be a family that lives off in those caves, right?
The strange, true, they could be true.
They're robbing y'all, and that's the reason why there was so many purses in there. They sneaking around, they're robbing. Nobody has really seen them. Yeah. So nobody, because she could have kidnapped the little boy.
Yeah, but I guess the strange thing is if whoever did it does look like Grandma Cappy.
Or she could have just looked like an older grandma.
Or maybe that's because he's three and a half. But
another older white lady.
Black lady. You know somebody's face though.
But not like that though. A 3-year-old.
Y'all better stop underestimating kids. But yeah, but I get you though. It could have just been an older lady, and he just like a nice little lady, someone that reminds him of grandma.
100% resemble his grandma.
Or just someone that reminds him of his grandma.
A lot of people who look like a lot of us look like each other though, or it's got some type of resemblance.
Yeah.
Or you like, hey, you know what I'm saying? If I look too quick, you look like somebody.
Look like somebody.
And then I look back and be like, dang, them.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, is that them?
But I'm just glad he was found safe and unharmed.
But yeah, it's a possibility there's people living around in this mount. Well, I can't remember the name of it, but in this mountain area, that it could be a whole family.
Yeah.
And in fact, our next story is another Mount Shasta case. In 1999, Carl Landers was a very experienced hiker, climber, whose passion in life was on the weekends or any chance he got was to go hiking and climbing and camping. That was just what he did. He was in great shape. He was enjoying retirement. That was his happy place, is being on a mountain somewhere in California, hiking around. And he had two very close friends that he would go hiking with just about every chance he could. In 1999, in the summer, Carl decides he wants to summit Mount Shasta. And it's something he had attempted to do before, and he had been unsuccessful, and this time he was going to do it. And so Mount Shasta, it's high enough, it's about 14,000 feet, that it's not uncommon for people to stop at this point called Lake Helen, where, you know, hikers can adjust to the altitude, because it's certainly possible to get sick from being at altitude if you don't adjust to it, or if your body doesn't respond well to it. And so their plan was get to Lake Helen, camp out for the night, and then summit the next day. So they head up in May of 1999, the three of them. They get to Lake Helen and they set up their camp for the night. It was clear that Carl already had some sort of altitude sickness, because by the time they reach Lake Helen, he's weak, he's sick, and he figures, I'm going to try to sleep it off tonight. I'll see how I feel in the morning. And so all night, Carl is just super sick. It's a horrible night for him. And so early the next morning, Carl is a real stubborn guy, and he really wanted to climb Mount Shasta. He says to his two friends, hey, look, I'm just going to get a head start here. I've been up basically all night. I'm going to just get up the last stretch here, summit this mountain, and then come back down and be done with it. And so his two friends, they didn't like the idea of splitting up, but Carl's an experienced guy. And I mean, he's only covering a distance of maybe 650 feet. Like, this is not some epic distance he's covering. It's basically like a day hike. So Carl leaves on his own. He leaves his backpack at the campsite, and his two friends would watch him as he kind of bent around the mountain and went up towards the summit, and that would be the last time they ever saw him. The two friends would attempt to summit as well about 30 minutes later. One of them apparently had gotten sick overnight and said, look, I can't do this, and he stays at the camp. He's like, I'll be here. You know, we've already split up from Carl. Why don't you also go on your own, summit yourself, and I'll be here. I'll wait for Carl. I'll wait for you. The friend that does make the summit, he goes up. He follows the same trail, this short distance up to the summit, gets to the summit, and he hasn't seen Carl. He's not shocked. It is a little strange that they wouldn't have passed on the way, but he's thinking, you know, anything could have happened. Maybe he sat down somewhere. I don't know what it is. And then comes back down expecting to see Carl back at the campsite. So he gets back to the campsite at Lake Helen, where the other sick friend had not left. He was still there. And he says, hey, has Carl come back? And the friend's like, no, didn't you see him on the way up? Did you lap him? Like, what's he doing up there? And he's like, no, I went up. I didn't see him on the way up. I didn't see him at the summit, and I didn't see him on the way down. And they're thinking to themselves, like, thinking about the trail itself. It's incredibly open. There's almost nowhere to like fall. There's no crevasse. There's no sheer cliff. You know, there's almost no vegetation really to obscure you. It just didn't make any sense that you could vanish. A huge search is launched. They never found anything. There was also 50 to 100 people in the area that day, and nobody knew where he went. No one saw him. No one had any idea what happened to him. They interviewed everybody there. No one knows what happened to Carl. The only clue that we have of Carl is the backpack that he left at Lake Helen before he made the summit run. Other than that, for 20 years, we have no clue what happened to him. None. And so this next story is really creepy.
This one.
There's nothing, bro.
You said what?
I said there's nothing. No leads to anything.
Yeah. No trace, no nothing. Like,
because as a look into it like a police investigation, first people look at it is the friends.
Yeah.
I don't know what you would do to rule them out of a situation like that. But the main two suspects now, right, is the friends. Was there possibly any type of hidden agenda, hidden motive? Like, what is the relationship like? Are y'all doing any type of business together? Mm-hmm. Because there's no body found, there's no nothing. Did he have a backpack, or did he have any kind of like hiking gear, any gear that was on him previously for the hike?
No.
Did we find any food? What about his food, water supply? We don't have any information about that. He was already feeling ill. Typically, if I'm feeling ill, I'll turn back more than I'll go forward. Typical. Especially if I'm feeling real ill.
Well, right. I agree with everything you said, but we know he left his backpack with the friends. He left his backpack. He decided not to take his backpack with him because it wasn't that long of a hike. It was just he said 600 and some feet.
Ain't this like 2 football fields?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So he decided to leave his backpack because it wasn't that long of a hike. It was just kind of, a little straight shot and back. He was feeling sick the night before. They slept it off. He got up early. It was like he just want to go ahead and get his hike out the way. So he left without the friends. One friend ended up leaving 30 minutes after him. The other friend was still sick or started to feel sick and ended up staying and never did the hike. So
yeah, about 2 football fields, which is not that far.
It's not that far, and that's why he decided to leave his backpack behind. Like, it wasn't that far.
But
and then for other people to be, go ahead.
If the friend leaves, y'all, my eyes was bothering me so bad, so I ain't hear every detail. Friend leaves not too far.
Like 30 minutes later, he went up,
and this doesn't look like a steep hill.
He went up, did his hike, came back, asked the other friend,
that photo.
Right. Well, I don't know if that's like actually the photo, but yeah, I see he showed it. I didn't know if it was like, yeah. So he went, did his hike, came back, asked the other friend, "Hey, has Carl came down?" "No, I haven't seen him." Keep in mind, it was other people around, like 50 more other. I think he said maybe it was other people on the trail or whatever as well. So do keep that in mind. That it's not just them out there. It's like several other people.
What's several others?
Well, he said the amount, but I just can't remember. I don't want to make up a number. But he said roughly around the amount of people. Because I'm pretty sure when they did the search or investigation.
Did he even get that far with them?
Huh?
Nothing.
Did he get that far with who?
Nothing.
Okay, well, I don't know with this one.
It could, honestly, it could be foul play. Foul play can be involved. One friend walks the trail, the other friend, no, I'm going to stay here. But the other two went. Because one case we heard, I believe the husband had some involvement to do with that situation when the wife, he go this way, the wife go that way. We were supposed to meet back in 15 minutes. And these weren't. That sounds very sketchy. That sounds like, all right, we're trying to come up with a cover story. This situation kind of gives me come up with a cover story as well.
I got you.
You never know. People plot things. People, if it comes out, all right, let me say this. If it comes out like this story, they further investigate and comes out the friends did have something to do with it. Would you be shocked or you be like?
I won't be shocked. Anything is in the air. Anything could have happened. But also, I'm just like, foul play. I would like to know when, how, and where. Especially with so many people and the body was never recovered.
What I'm saying is, did anybody else ever see him on this path? If anybody doesn't come up front and say, yeah, I saw him walking, how can we verify that 100% he was there? He probably went on a trip with y'all to go on this hike, but he probably never made it to go on the hike, if you get what I'm saying. Okay, they could have did something to him prior before. He never even got up to the hike. Also, they could have probably woke up early before everybody else started walking and did something to him. I'm like, you can't
Yeah, I got you. Anything is possible, especially when you don't have much. You don't have anything to go off of, and you never recover the body.
It's actually legit, low key, a lot that you could of situational that you can be like, That sounds sus. That sounds.
But it'll be all assumptions because
all of it's
you don't
assumption,
have a
but,
body. Is what I'm saying.
Every assumption leads to some type of lead if you follow the assumption. You have to clear even the little amount of assumptions you have. That's the reason why some people are able to solve cases better than others. It's because they like, something in this just don't seem right. If they didn't follow that assumption or that hunch or say, it would have never got solved, right?
Correct.
So what is the hypothetical thing you think might have happened?
I don't know. I agree with you, but if he did make it to the hike,
did something to him on the hike.
I know. I said that. I just said if that is the case, then where, how, and when did he do that? Is what I'm saying. If so, like if something happened before, we will never know. If he did make it to the hike and something happened to him, as far as like going off of what you think, maybe like one of the friends or both friends had something to do with it. I'm just saying, where would his body be? Like, where did y'all like put his body? That's all I'm saying. But anything is in the air. I have no clue, honestly.
One of the strange phenomenons.
Oh, did he say that they like the rescue came, but did they like? I wonder how long was it before they reported the. It's a lot. It's a lot of. Yeah, never mind.
None. So this next story is really creepy. One of the strange phenomenons that you get inside of these missing 411 stories is you have people that go missing really suddenly, like as if they were pulled away at high speed and just ripped off the face of the mountain. And this story is one of those stories. In 2010, Eric Lewis was 57 years old. He was an extremely experienced mountain climber. And he had two very close friends that were also very experienced mountain climbers. And they decided that they wanted to go hike Mount Rainier in Washington State, which is a huge mountain. And they were doing a climb that was fairly technical and fairly dangerous. And it required the three of them to be tethered together on the same cable. And so as they're making this ascent of Mount Rainier, you have friend one in the front, friend two in the middle, and then Eric Lewis is the third guy on the line all the way down. And so the way it worked is the first climber, friend number one, if he wanted to rest, the other two climbers would keep climbing up to his position and take a rest with him. So he was kind of in charge of setting the cadence of how quickly they were going to climb this mountain. And so over the course of the day, the first climber would stop periodically, and then the second climber and Eric would make their way up and wait and relax. All day that was happening. And then one time they come to a stop, and there's been nothing weird happening. Nothing's happened to this point. Everything feels very normal. The first guy stops, the second climber gets up to him, and then Eric doesn't show up. And so they pull on the line, and it's very light. And they pull it up, and the rope has been cut. Like, Eric's gone. And they're like, okay, only in an emergency would you cut the line. And so they just start immediately descending because they're like, well, it just snowed. It'll be very easy to track his footsteps. If he cut the line, he must have had a reason. Let's follow his footsteps to wherever he went. But the only footsteps on the mountain were the ones walking up, attached to the rope. Basically, Eric had been walking up, leaving footprints right behind the other two, and then the footprints just stop. There aren't footprints that go back down. It was like he was pulled off of the mountain. And so they start walking down thinking they're going to run into him, but they don't. The weather gets bad enough that they ultimately abandon the hike. They go down and they're like, geez. They tell the authorities and they're looking everywhere and they can't find him. And then they discover this creepy cave that's like 200 feet down and away from where they were hiking. That would have been very hard to get to. Inside of this ice cave is Eric's gear, but no Eric. And they've never found Eric's body. But for that gear to get into the cave, it wasn't just, hanging on the edge. It was inside the cave. But there was no footprints leading to the cave. There's no footprints anywhere. It was just like inexplicably, Eric's gear winds up deep inside an ice cave 200 feet away, and Eric's body was never recovered, and no one has any idea what happened to him. So the last story is actually really two distinct stories.
Oh, that wasn't even part. That kind of low-key was pointless to even explain, bro, because...
What?
We ain't getting no info.
The line was cut. Okay.
No footsteps.
No footsteps.
Because I was thinking, like, did we check the... Because then I was like, it's snow. Like, how heavy is the snow? Like, how deep is the snow, right? Because I'm like, what if he fell But then now we get the information that the
backpack was
in his cave.
But no footprints to the cave. But the backpack is inside the cave. How did it get there?
And I'm like, could have been an animal, like a cougar or something. Like, like mountain lions and stuff like that.
But how's the
line cut? I don't know Washington, though.
I'm thinking about how was the line cut, though?
Like, was it a smooth cut? Was it
just cut? Period. Like, he would have had to cut the line, but why? That's what I'm saying. That's that's my question. Like, okay, he's the third person. He's the one that is missing. He would have had to cut the line, but why would you cut the line though? Like, that makes no sense.
Could he possibly? Because nowadays I'm just like, anything is.
What year? 2010.
18?
Oh, when you said 18?
2010.
Oh, it probably was 18. I put 2010, but it probably was 18.
I can't really read. I just
2000s in the 2000 something, but still, it really doesn't even matter the year. The situation at hand still is like strange, Mm-hmm. And no signs of him. Nothing. That makes no sense.
Because after this latest situation, I'm like, is it possible that some of these people like run away, like literally run away? Washington, right next to Canada. Let me fake my death. Throw my you never know and run away.
I mean, yeah, that's the thing. When you be asking like questions like that, I'm like, yeah, everything is possible. Anything is possible, right? But it's just like has he showed like signs of anything? Has anything like been going on?
So,
is he dealing with like any type of?
I said this when we used to do these. I never thought about that up until the recent situation with that one dad, right? The dad who disappeared. They thought he was dead last year. And now all of a sudden they see signs of life.
He making videos and talking about he's cool. I'm good. I'm in this country.
I'm happy where I'm at. Yeah. I'm never coming back. But he basically faked his death, and his death like the accident really looked like a missing 411 case.
Yeah.
Like there's nobody. We have evidence of this, but there's nobody. There's not like he's missing now, and we can only rule him as being deceased. And now come to find out he's over in Europe, Eastern Europe somewhere. It's like what the. Mm-hmm. But for a whole year, you know what I'm saying? So that after hearing stuff like that, I'm like, is it possible people out here that's a part of the missing 411 possibly have faked their death?
Especially like I guess like when you like recover. You don't have like never recovered a body, like no signs of anything, like no clothing, no piece of limb, like nothing, like literally nothing.
And then after we did the 10 cold cases and come to find out the cold case, his best friend had something to do with it along with the wife. And remember, he got away with it. She ended up going to jail. Yeah. The best friend, he told like,
obviously he ended up telling
everything. And that's how they found out everything. But again, they had evidence of his gear and stuff was there, and it looks as though he made it to. They staged it so well, and that's the reason why I'm like, it's a possibility.
That some of these be staged.
They could have climbed up, cut the rope, made it appear as though that, and threw his bag into a cave. There's only how many footprints are there really on the trail?
Yeah.
One could have faked like they were his footprints as well. Mm-hmm. Said, hey, we're going to push, pop, pop. You walk, pop, pop. You know what I'm saying? Like, make it look like there's 3 sets of footprints. We don't know, bro. All that is possible. And that's the scary part of the missing 411 is because you don't have the answers to any of it. But anything is possible. Like, because I was thinking maybe an animal got to him. But I'm like, there would be some type of evidence that showed that an animal, like while we were ascending. And honestly, think about it too. If we're all on the same rope, right? I'm first, you're second. Isn't there some tightness to the rope? Mm-hmm. So if I'm at the bottom, and that tension by even me cutting it, you're gonna automatically feel the looseness of the tension. I'm not just gonna get it to second and be like, where is he? Where is he? I'm gonna already tell that the rope feel lighter than what it is because we all are on the same rope, right? So why haven't y'all noticed that the rope tension is no longer as tight or as heavy as we're ascending? Something has changed. Because it's one rope and it's you here. But if I'm climbing and I feel
yeah,
because he's at the bottom, Eric.
Yeah, he's
supposedly at the bottom. Supposedly
at the bottom. Yeah.
Or somebody just let me know in the comments. Am I overthinking the hiking thing? Because
I've never been hiking, so I can't say how things feel.
I done did some things, but not to
that level. But like if the rope was caught, I don't know if it's because like everybody's like going and the drip, like I don't know.
True.
I don't know like what's happening or what's the reason why they didn't feel like the shift or the change and like the rope weight and all of that.
True.
I have no clue. Don't know what that feels like. Never been hiking before, but these are strange to me. Because you have no signs of them. I'm like, okay, if he cut the rope, fell, something happened, or even if an animal, the animal thing, I'm like, what, I don't know about that, but it could, and like I said, anything could be possible, but, because I feel like that, you're gonna hear me scream, it's gonna be some type of struggle, like I feel like you will like notice that.
But also, peep this, before I even cut it, when I try to scream up to y'all guys, be like, hey,
I just said, yeah, that's what I'm just saying.
No, not even just the animal.
Like,
but
hey, I see something.
Or if something is even
it's
going
even
on.
happening. Yeah, I don't know. That one's strange. Don't have much. It was quick. And with most of these, except for the first one, since he was found, everything is you can lay anything out. You can assume anything. Make your own assumptions. Say this happened, but we really would truly never know unless more information came out. The second one, 20 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Roughly around 20 years.
Yeah, it's over 25.
20-some years.
25 years ago.
Okay.
No, I was just trying to...
I was 25 years ago.
Yeah.
99, whatever. But, I'm like, unless something else came about...
I was like, has it been 20 years? That's what
over 20?
No, that's what I was like. I said 99? We partying like it's 1990. Has it been 20 years ago since partying like 1999?
But yeah, like with that one, like it's like, okay, nothing after all these years.
I'll just be flying.
Come on, let's go to the next story.
But they together make up a particular phenomenon.
Oh, sorry. Let's take a bit.
He was never recovered, and no one has any idea what happened to him. So the last story is actually really two distinct stories, but they together make up a particular phenomenon that occurs inside some of these missing 411 cases. And that's when some creature takes a child and actually protects them. In 1868, a 3-year-old girl vanished abruptly from her father's camp in northern Michigan. The father noticed the girl was gone. In hysterics, he enlists the help of a couple professional hunters that were there with him. They go off looking for this girl, and after a couple of hours of looking, they start to hear what sounds like her voice. And she doesn't sound particularly distraught, but it's definitely a child's voice. And so they kind of cut through this big thicket, and out bursts this massive bear-looking thing that runs away from them. And they didn't shoot it or anything. They just saw this huge animal run away, and they're thinking the worst because they're hearing this child, and now they're seeing this huge animal that looks like a bear running away. And they go through the thicket, and they find this girl who's totally unharmed, who was in this kind of clearing within the thicket where clearly this bear creature had been with her. And the father's elated. He scoops up the child, and the child seems unhurt, and he asks her, like, where have you been? What happened? And she says, oh, Mr. Wolf took me here. And Mr. Wolf was feeding me berries, and Mr. Wolf was playing with me. Maybe it was a bear or a wolf or something, but some animal had taken her, brought her into a thicket, and had not harmed her. And so the other instance occurred in 1955 when a family that was made up of mother, father, and their 8 kids were staying in this camp in Montana. And they had all these different tents set up for all their kids. And some of the older kids were staying in one of the tents with their 2-year-old sister, Ida Mae. while the parents were working and the kids were doing whatever they were doing. And so these older kids are sitting deep inside the tent, and near the entrance to the tent is where Ida Mae, the 2-year-old, is sitting. And the tent is open, like the flap is open to the tent.
Why the fuck y'all got a 2-year-old sitting right there opening? She the youngest one. She don't need to be sitting that close to the entrance. That don't even make sense.
To the tent is where Ida Mae, the 2-year-old, is sitting. And the tent is open, like the flap is open to the tent. And as they're sitting there, the older kids would later say that a bear wandered past, reached in, grabbed Ida Mae, and scooped her up into its arm. Now, a bear does not do this with its arm, but they described it like this. The bear was holding Ida like this and ran away on 3 legs instead of 4. And so the kids are freaked out because they just saw a bear take their 2-year-old away. They're basically hysterical. They sprint up to their mom and dad. They tell them what happened. And the parents just have no idea how to react to this. They obviously get in touch with authorities. They launch the search. And as they're doing the search, police are asking the kids, like, describe to us again what you saw. And they're like, it was a bear that was like holding our sister like this. And they were like, you got to be more descriptive because bears can't do that. Was it a person? Was it a hairy person? And the police just didn't buy that it was a bear. And so 2 days go by and they haven't found this child. And so the family obviously is thinking the worst. They're absolutely grief-stricken. And then one of the searchers finds the girl. And they find her about 300 yards away from the camp. She was inside of a very intentionally built structure. It was a crudely built fort. Right against the riverbed. And inside it was like a den. And she was in there and she was totally unharmed and she was perfectly fine. And they take her out and they ask her, like, what happened? And she's 2. But she says, Mr. Bear fed me berries. Mr. Bear kept me here. Mr. Bear cuddled me. That's all we have. We don't know what this creature was, what bear is able to pull its arm in like this, but she felt totally unthreatened by it. And to this day, we don't really know if that was a bear or something else, but whatever it was, it didn't harm Ida, and Ida never felt threatened by it. These stories are just a fraction of the literal thousands of strange cases that David Paulides covers in his Missing 411 project. So if you enjoyed this video and you might want to see more content just like this, I would encourage you to gently uppercut the like button and then
What?
What?
I'm thinking of Montana. I'm thinking like, what other animals could it be in Montana? What? Cause when he said, I said, could have been a mountain lion? Cause I'm sitting here looking, I'm like, I see mountain lions. They be. Could it be that the thing, whatever it was very, and it,
I'm not even like
real fast and just kept. But I'm like,
I wasn't even like pressed on like particularly like what animal it was. I was just surprised like that like the kids weren't like harmed in any way. It was like my main thing. I was like nothing. And then just to like describe like, oh, they fed me berries, they cuddled me, they kept me, they like, I just found that kind of like, strange. But
and in Michigan, I don't know what's going on in Michigan.
Yeah.
That was the first story in Michigan.
Yeah.
It could have been a wolf though. In Michigan, could have been a wolf. I don't know these last 2, y'all.
The last 2.
I ain't gonna hold you, bro.
The good thing was they was found safe, and that's all that mattered. And they was fed. As long as the kids fed and safe, child. But yeah,
those last 2 kind of crazy.
Those last 2, yeah. I don't know about those. A little strange, but yeah.
Yeah, facts, man. Hey, y'all spam us up in the comments. Y'all let us know y'all thoughts about it for us in the comment section down below. But until next time, y'all know how it go, man. I do go by the name DJ New Kid. This is
Sierra Nicole.
We are
Kid and C.
We are.
Peace.
Time to kick it, got a stack of flip for my foes. Dollar. Please tell me you can hear me. Don't turn your back and don't neglect me. Just let me know if you need me. Dollar. Let me watch out for my